Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SeahawkTalk here on the Salve Athletics Network. I am your host, Andrew Pizzelli, and we're coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope through Twitter. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to all of those channels for Salve Athletics to never miss a show. Once again, we're live every day, 3 to 4 p.m. We've got a great show for you lined up here today. We'll be joined by Matt Messner, Pete Noonan, Sebastian Nordsey, Craig O'Rourke II, and then we'll end the show with a very special and informative TED Talk about athletics, athletes, and mental health. Make sure you stick around for that one. Very important segment of the show. We want everybody to make sure they tune in to that one. We're going to talk to our producers as well, but first, like always, we want to remind you to keep your distance. That is Ed Habershaw with his rendition of Keep Your Distance by The Shake, a Rhode Island-based band with a message that we can apply worldwide. Social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing, we've heard all about those things, and each and every day we will continue to remind people to do those simple and easy things. Want to bring in the producers now, Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco. Fellas? Oh, there goes Mike. Fellas, how are we doing here on a Thursday?
Doing well, getting ready for the weekend.
Yeah, doing good.
What stories do you guys have for us here at the top of the show?
I'll lead us right in just because kind of important. So 2 weeks has flown by. I didn't realize it'd been that long, but the Rhode Island pause normally would have been coming to an end next week. But instead, we're extending it one more week. Probably going to extend it a little bit more, but so now it ends December 21st instead of, I believe it was the 13th originally. Weirdly, not a lot changes when the pause gets lifted, which you can't really tell in this article here. But then when you look at the image and they highlight it in red for you, for people like me, you now know what's different. So most of the things like school, childcare, personal services, all that, staying the same. Mainly what's changing is restaurants are getting to go up to 50% instead of a third capacity. Venues of assembly, which the picture has like a little football, so I assume it means like sports type things too. Gyms and indoor recreation are now allowing people in either at 25% capacity or one person per 150 square feet for things like gyms and such. So really what's changing is the non-essential type recreation stuff is getting open, but having limitations. And then dining's getting just a little boost.
And those changes and boosts will be happening, at least for now, they say on the 21st, right?
Yes, on the 21st, that's what's happening. That's what's the change. And they said Raimundo's going to have a special meeting on January 7th. I don't know if that's a Friday, if that's the normal day she has her meetings. But that's when she's going to be lining up the what they're doing for the year ahead and talking about any more restrictions or reductions of restrictions that are going on. And then the Rhode Island Department of Health also released another little, what do you call it, infographic, I guess is the word, about like safety is paramount. I feel like that's not a thing you need to write, but sure. Efficient distribution access. This is specifically about the vaccine, but it kind of translates to everything as a whole about staying safe. But they're just releasing because vaccines on the horizon. They want people to, know what's going on and who's going to get it and what kind of important things are coming out of it. And that's basically all that's in this article. Main thing, pause, still going.
Keep pausing.
Stay paused.
Freeze! Yeah. Don't clap your hands yet. So, the 7th is basically a month from now. 4 weeks. So, and it's a Thursday.
Is it Thursday?
So
it's not. Yeah, so it's not our normal day. So.
Not the normal day, but that's been
Wouldn't
changing all
expect
over the
it.
place.
Yeah, sure.
Mike, were you going to talk about the vaccine, or do you want me to bring that in?
No, you can
I'm not-
go ahead and bring that in. I think that's a little more related than what I was going to.
Okay, I
bring up
wasn't sure.
next.
I wasn't
Yeah,
sure if
no,
you were going
sorry.
to pull it in because Joey mentioned the vaccine. I wanted to pull this up because this was something that came out today for Rhode Islanders. When we can expect the vaccine, phase 1, and again, this is kind of dependent on. I know they're trying to get the U.S. is trying to get the FDA to approve on an emergency basis the use of certain vaccines as soon as possible. And this is kind of, as they say, estimated time frames. So phase 1, as you can imagine, high-risk healthcare workers, hospital staff, first responders, frontline workers, people with very significant medical conditions, and older adults who live in congregate or overcrowded settings, so nursing homes, retirement places, those sorts of things. Phase 2 is teachers and school staffs for K through 12, again, critical workers, high-risk people who are homeless or group homes, incarcerated or detained people and staff, and then older adults. And then phase 3, that April to June window, young adults, children, workers in critical industries. And then phase 4 is the rest of us plebeians will be getting our vaccine. And no real, again, April to June or later, so it could be into the summer for that. Everyone else. These are just estimates. Obviously, if this happens and the vaccine comes rolling out and it's effective, it'll be historic because it'll be the quickest turnaround of an effective vaccine in the history of the world. So, right now, these are their kind of projections. And it's kind of what you'd expect if it's ready to go. The people who need it the most are the ones who are going to get it first. So, not really surprising there, but at least for now, it seems like instead of just hearing, "Oh, the vaccine's coming," kind of some timeline stuff starting to get.
Yeah, we got a plan.
I
I think it's
applied
funny.
to it.
I think this is
something
the
more
first,
tangible.
The first image for the one that I just showed, because the one I showed had a 2 on it. I was like, oh, I wonder what the first page is. I bet it's this.
Probably.
Connected.
So that's that. Enough COVID news. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for that, like we've been saying. So, but if like Joey was talking about, if we're going to be inside, you might want to stock up on this new Ben & Jerry's flavor. Colin Kaepernick and Ben & Jerry's are collaborating for a new Change the World flavor. I'm just going to read off because this writer did a great job. I'm just going to read the lead here. So the fight for justice is difficult and long. Colin Kaepernick knows this well, and his latest foray will help ease the late night blues. Confectionery stars Ben & Jerry debuted their latest permanent flavor combination, and it's named after the former NFL quarterback. Colin Kaepernick's Change the World, a vegan, non-dairy frozen dessert, will launch in 2021. The dessert is caramel sunflower butter based with fudge chips, graham cracker swirls, and chocolate cookie swirls, with the brand giving a 1970s peace vibe. So quite a lot there, yeah. And you can see it is giving a very groovy vibe, and it sounds delicious to me. So I don't know about the whole vegan, non-fat thing, but I'm sure it still tastes pretty good. Yeah, that was here.
That's
I'll
the
read
part
that part
that's
again.
weird.
Well, is it sunflower oil or sunflower seed? What is it?
It's vegan, non-dairy. So I'm assuming those are substitutes for what. Yeah, so it's caramel sunflower butter based.
I just need to. This is important. How many calories are in a scoop? That's all we need to know. Because it looks delicious. I bet it tastes good. How many calories?
400
per serving?
Per serving. So that's probably a lot. But because I was reading I was trying to find a picture where we could read the things, because there's like a lot. So it's caramel with fudge chips, graham cracker, or whatever. And it doesn't say sunflower. I bet you're right. I bet it's the ice cream.
Yeah, well, what's critical here, Joey, is what we know what a serving is. Does a serving constitute, as Sebastian Nurzi points out to us, a pint, or is one serving a scoop?
I think it's the pint.
That is your assignment, Detective Morelli. You need to find out for us the serving size.
Real quick, okay.
While he's looking up that, I wanted to share quickly. We've talked about obscure sports here on the program. This is something I didn't know about. This is World Federation of Tag. So this is professional tag. You get a point for evading your opponent for 20 seconds in this little obstacle field here. you don't have to move out of your little start. Look at the slide. So this is just awesome. And you think, oh, tag. Could I be a professional tag player? I mean, these guys. This is some hardcore. Oh, and he gets them at the last second. This is some hardcore stuff. I mean, straight line speed means nothing here. It's all about change of direction. I don't know if any of us feel like we'd be up to the task. I can't wait to talk to some of our athletes about this because I know this will be interesting. I feel like the 3-cone drill, the NFL Combine 3-cone drill. If you have great 3-cone drill numbers, but you don't get drafted, World Federation of Tag should be reaching out to you at any time, because that's what this is all about.
Yeah, if you're good at the 3-cone drills or the 5-10-5s, this is made for you right here. See, I was like, can't you see him just hitting his head on that pole? Like, that is so dangerous too. Like this, I was saying, could maybe qualify for an extreme sport.
Yeah, I imagine they need a pretty robust concussion protocol here in World Federation of Tag, because there's got to be instances where guys just run full speed into the bar.
They're going to need to be wearing helmets or some gear soon, I'm assuming.
No, it slows you down.
Once the Players Association maybe develops a little bit.
The union.
So another little interesting, fun thing. Again, sports, we didn't know that we're professional leagues. There's professional leagues for everything now, I guess. Somewhere in a country, there's people who did this also dressed up like turkeys. Just off of everything else we've seen this week. Joey, were you able to find out the serving size of that ice cream before we move on?
I found one. It killed my camera to do it, but I found at least the first alphabetically. Cannoli is the first one. I assume it's the same for all of them. Serving size 2/3 of a cup. It does not specify. Oh, now here, I was going to say, it doesn't specify a cup, or is it calling it a cup? Above it says 3 servings per container, which would mean, if someone did the math,
a third.
2 cups. Yeah.
So. Well, work out first, then eat it. That's safe bet.
It says here, calories per serving 360 per container, 1090. So, now you know.
The more you know.
The more you know.
All right, fellas, great stuff as always. We won't get to talk to you guys at the end of the show because we're going to be having the mental health TED Talk. But I'll let you guys get to work producing the show. Great job as always, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. But I know you'll be busy at work.
See everyone tomorrow.
All right, that's Mike DeFusco and Joey Morelli, the producers here on Seahawk Talk. We're going to get to our first guest now. Senior captains from our football team, Matt Messner and Pete Noonan. Fellas, welcome to the show. How we doing?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Good. How are you?
I could see, Matt, I think your jaw was just dropping at the World Tag professional. What is your guys' thoughts on the professional tag thing? Could you compete in that? What do you think?
I think I might be able to do it, but like Mike was saying, hitting your head on one of those bars probably wouldn't be very fun. They don't have any helmets like we do on the field, so we'll see what happens.
I think it'd be 3 to 4 seconds if I did it, but maybe Joey Moriello or some of our little guys would be better at it.
Yeah, maybe if this was if it was run like Oklahoma drills and you had somebody else in there, that's where Pete you could come in handy. You guys were both named captains of the team this year. What did that mean to you to be named captains?
That kind of meant a lot to me because that just told me that, the guys thought that I would be, a good leader for the program, good leader, as the team. So it just meant a lot because it showed that they, thought fairly highly of me and thought I could do a good job in the upcoming season. So, it was nice to kind of have them vote for me.
It meant a lot to me also, knowing my teammates thought that highly of me, but also it's my first time being a captain and it's a leadership role that I'm ready for and excited for. So it meant a lot to me as well.
Yeah. What have been the challenges of being a senior and being asked to be a leader of this team this season?
One of the hardest things about it was we didn't have a camp, so it was hard to get to know some of the freshmen, especially once we had our practices because we were in little pods. So we weren't meeting everyone right away. And it took a while to get to know some of the teammates, which usually you have camp. A few days in, everyone's name. So that was probably the toughest part. And then we just had to, keep guys motivated. The gyms were closed for a little while, so we had to do home workouts in the summer and just keeping everyone kind of on the same page of, everyone's in the same boat, but let's keep working as hard as we can.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I'd say like keeping the morale of the team was very important, and like making sure like holding everyone accountable and like showing the freshmen that this isn't normal, but we have to adjust to this and do our best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know you talked there, Matt, about not having training camp. A lot of the stuff that happens in a training camp, while it's serious, you're down to work, it's that team building, it's that fun aspect. I know you guys like to have fun at practice too. How have you guys been able to supplement that and work on that and try and still have fun and build that camaraderie as a team?
Well, during practices we had some, competition drills, just little things to get everyone, excited, and that was kind of in the later phases when we were allowed to have more people. And then, other than that, it's just been trying to get to know each other as safely as possible. It's still a little tough with limits on people in a household and all that, but we're doing our best to get to know everyone and make everyone feel like a family. Because this team, I know that's how it's felt from the time that I've been here. So we're really trying to make sure they feel that as well.
hmm I'd say like we've had to go the extra mile in terms of like meeting the freshmen, and like one of the good benefits, if there's any benefits, is knowing people in your pod really well. So I get to know the freshmen in my pod very well, and also like whenever I would see a football player on campus, you go up and you talk to them because it was crazy not knowing everyone on the team going into campus. So.
Yeah. You guys normally have a spring season and spring ball. Well, this time it's going to be hopefully your regular season. How do you prepare to stay ready, since there's going to be a bit of a gap here, and then also to prepare physically for playing in the springtime?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Tom, our strength and conditioning coach here, along with Mark, they already implemented on Team Builder our build-up program. So now we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. They're starting to run us again and, just keeping us in shape. So doing the workouts that they give us through the app on Team Builder is going to be the main way that we stay physically fit. But at the same time, we got to make sure we're staying in the playbook, maybe meeting with a couple of the guys in our position group, just so that we're on the playbook and we don't lose a step going into the spring.
I'd say it's very important that we all stay in shape and we have to stay on top of each other, because this is really odd that we have this much time, because we had a fall camp and a lot of guys improved, but some guys could slack off and not keep working. But also it's going to be a 5-game season, so we're going to have to be prepared for every game, because there's really not going to be any second chances.
Coach told us last week how, with the way the scheduling's working, you guys may be playing on Friday nights. That kind of throws it back to the high school days. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have lights in high school, so it was Saturday. It was Saturday football for a long time. Did you guys get to play Friday night football, and what will it be like to be under the lights in college on a Friday night?
Yeah, I think I was a Friday night light team, and I loved it. Just the atmosphere. You get a lot of people coming out. I know in high school it was always, advertised, and everyone wanted to go to the games. And there's just something about it at nighttime under the lights. It gives it another I don't know, it makes it feel like a bigger moment almost, in my opinion. So I'm very excited for that.
I'm very excited as well. In high school, we played Saturday games and Friday night games. So, but more important, I'm just excited that we have games. So I'll play whenever. I don't really care.
That kind of leads into the next thing, Pete. Coach also said, hey, we'll play on Tuesday, we'll play on Wednesday, we'll play in a parking lot, we'll play in a dirt field, doesn't matter what. You guys are just, no matter where and when, just tell us where and when you guys are ready to play, right?
Absolutely.
How much, and we're going to have a TED Talk here at the end of the show about being an athlete and mental health. There's been a big focus on that throughout the summer and this fall season. How much have there been discussions about that and more attention brought to the individual's mental health during this season more than others?
Well, just same as any other season. Coach Gill, the first day that we all come together, we have meetings and whatnot, and he tells us that if there's anything going on that we need to talk to him about, his door is always open whenever he's there. So that's one of the ways. And the guys in the position group and the offense and defense, we all rely on each other. So we're very comfortable, going up, asking for some guys for help if we need it. And I think we're pretty open about that.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Like, I think we're all very hard on each other, but at the end of the day, like, we do anything for each other, and that's kind of what it comes down to. Because if anybody reaches out for help, like, we're brothers. It's bigger than football. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Last kind of fun question for you guys. What's your favorite thing about the holiday season?
I like the food. I'm a big food guy, so it's always a fun time to just acceptably pig out and just kind of relax for the day. So I think that's my thing.
I like seeing my whole family. My brothers are all older, so we all get to come together. It's pretty cool.
Matt's family's right now. It's like, really? Food first? Come on. I expected, I wrote down, I put a little tab here. I'm going to ask this question. I said, if food or family spoken like true football players, so you guys passed the test. Guys, thanks so much for taking the time. Good to see you. Glad you guys are doing well. Hopefully, good luck with the winter training and seeing you guys hopefully out in the field this spring.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Take it easy now. That's Matt Messner and Pete Noonan, senior captains of the football team. We're going to go next to the head coach of our women's volleyball team, Sebastian Nordzi. Seabass, how we doing?
Good, Pez. How are you?
Good. I want to just catch up with you. How's the recruiting thing going? How's the last week gone? What's the process been like?
So it's been slower than it has been because everything's starting to, of course, slow down. Rhode Island's not the only part of the country that's kind of taking extra measures. So a lot of other places are slowing down their volleyball, but it's kind of been still contacting recruits, still getting a feel for who they are as people, reaching out to different coaches. And so it's less about the volleyball and more about the person, which is kind of cool in its own little way.
Yeah. Do you kind of feel like you're lucky being the coach of an indoor sport? Because when you get film, it's probably going to at least be somewhat close to the court as opposed to somebody who maybe coaches, a football athlete or soccer, where you might have a parent filming from 100 yards away what's going on, the film you're getting. Or do you still, I'm sure you probably still get bad film too.
Yeah, of course I get bad film, but it's pretty easy, I think, in my opinion, to film indoor volleyball because, again, it's pretty close. The court's not that big, so you can easily find who's who. I can't imagine like football coaches or soccer coaches or whoever just seeing that film from way far away. I know the high school I went to, they had a crane at every single home game just watching the players. And I'm just like, how could I pick out a striker from, across the whole entire field? Like, what's that process like?
Yeah, for anybody who is a recruit that might be listening, what should they do if they're thinking about, hey, I want to put film together, I want film myself to send to a coach? What are kind of the things they should be trying to do?
I think a big thing is just try to get as good quality film as possible. It's obviously I don't need 4K high definition film, but any film where I can visibly pick out who you are and what your number is, some identifying features would be awesome. And then things that pertain to position groups. So if you're a middle, I don't necessarily need to see you passing 1,000 balls, but I do need to see you blocking and hitting and transitioning. Same with all the other positions. If you're a libero, I don't necessarily need to see you blocking ever, but I do definitely need to see you serving, passing, digging, all things that are specific to your position that would make you stand out a little bit more in indoor volleyball.
Yeah. For you, when you're breaking down recruitment film, are you watching it and just, real time? How much do you, what's the process? Do you like frame by frame certain things? Or is it a pretty, more laid back, like the film speaks for itself. I don't need to be breaking it down second by second. What's kind of the process like?
Yeah, so mostly I get highlight film. So it's what the kids clip themselves, and they'll clip hopefully their highlights, like the star things that make me attract to their play right away. And I'm seeing like, oh, okay, that was an awesome hit. Let me continue watching. After that, like if they send uncut film, that's awesome. I love seeing that. And I like just flipping through to what I need to see. Again, if they're a middle, I'll cut through all the positions where they're not on the court or they're not doing something specific to their position. And then I'll watch what they're doing. It isn't necessarily frame by frame. Like I don't necessarily need to see, oh, what's their hands doing here or whatever. Mm-hmm. I can always see that later on or work on that in person if they do come to the university. but it is nice to see just the overall gameplay and their interactions with their coaches and their teammates.
Yeah. How has your sport changed from when you've played it to today?
I think the sport's just getting bigger. I was lucky enough to be part of that trend. Me as a 6'5" outside hitter who could pass the ball, I had value in high school and college, and I think that trend's going forward as well. Some of these girls that are on the team currently and that are going to be in other college programs and our college programs are pretty tall girls. Like the 5'10" is a great height to be in as a front row player at the Division III level. And even at the Division I level, the girls are massive. You have 6'3" setters, 6'7" middles, just big people on the men's and the women's side of the game. So the taller the players are and the more physical they can get in the indoor game and even in the beach game pretty much, the better I think it is. So I'm not sure there's necessarily been too many rule changes that have impacted the sport, but definitely the growth physically of players has changed the sport.
Are there any rule changes or things like that about the game that you would want to see that you think could make the game better in the eyes of Sebastian Nordzi?
So I've always made up tons of different rules, like having an only specific front row player, like the libero position, except in the front row. That change will never happen. I just think it'd be a goofy one. But they have had talks about like the first or the second contact double, letting balls kind of get mangled. It doesn't matter if it's spinning crazy because it's not a real advantage if it does come out like that. That's the big one that comes to mind. I don't necessarily love that rule because I think setting is an art. I think it takes a lot of hard work. I think not everyone can do it. I think that if you are a great setter, you do whatever you can to prevent those crazy doubles and the crazy spin that comes off the ball. I would love just to see that art and the hard work of becoming a setter stay intact. That way we can't just throw, those 6'5" ginormous females at the net and just have them slap at balls and then just go block everywhere. I think it definitely would open up the game to a lot more players to have that fine tuning of those hands for sure.
Yeah. You wanted to jump in earlier on the Change the World, Colin Kaepernick, Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Your thoughts on that? There we go. On that flavor, and does Coach Seabass have a favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, I absolutely love Ben and Jerry's. Just as a company, for instance. But I love all those flavors that were thrown out there, and I'll definitely pick up a pint at one point. I don't know if it's going to become my favorite ice cream. Not saying it's not going to though, but I definitely love Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I think my favorite is either fish food or chunky monkey. Those two flavors, I could eat a whole pint anytime.
Awesome. Hey, Sebastian, thank you so much for taking the time here today. Always love catching up with you, and we'll talk more next week.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, Pez.
All right, take it easy now. That's Sebastian Nordzi, the head coach of our women's volleyball team. We're going to go next to the head coach of our men's soccer team, Craig O'Rourke II. Craig, how are we doing?
Hi, Pez.
Does that 4-2 result for Arsenal, which probably just went final, help kind of lighten or deaden the sting of the 2-0 Tottenham result from the weekend?
It went final about 40 minutes ago. I think I texted a number of fellow Arsenal supporters saying that it's always nice to have the Europa League matches to bolster our confidence and make our players think that we still are a big club. But to answer your second question, no, it does absolutely nothing to beat on the football clubs of the deaf, dumb, and blind across Europe to in any way, shape, or form mitigate what is going on in the Premier League for Arsenal.
I know we jokingly talked about relegation for Arsenal.
No,
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't actually think it's going to happen. But they're in the midst of probably their worst season since 94, 95. In a sense, in spirit, haven't they been relegated since instead of being a top 4 contender or, being one of the top teams. Now you're fighting to get above the bottom. That's relegation in spirit for a club like Arsenal, right?
All right, we'll do fact check first. We're currently having our worst Premier League season ever since the Premier League was founded in 91, 92. Relegation, by its nature, is demotion to a lower rank. As I've said on this program, I believe they need to create the level between the Premiership and the Championship and call it the Fulhamship for those clubs who don't belong in the Prem but continue to get promoted from the Championship. No, I very much disagree with the spirit of your comment. Relegation is something that happens towards the end of the season. There's a relegation zone that is monitored all season long for the bottom three clubs. Arsenal is not one of the bottom three clubs. It is true we are closer to relegation than we are to Champions League football, as finishing as one of the top four. However, the season is long and there are many games left to be played. We did just lose the North London Derby. I had a couple players play for me at Salve who were self-professed Tottenham supporters, and during their 4-year tenure playing for me back in 2011, 2012, and so forth, I used to tell them that in their lifetime, Tottenham had never finished ahead of Arsenal. That Arsenal had always been able to celebrate St. Tottingham's Day, the unofficial Arsenal holiday, when Arsenal mathematically clinches finishing ahead of Tottenham. And now for 5 years, myself and other Arsenal supporters have not celebrated St. Tottingham's Day because we have not finished ahead of Tottenham. So no, North London right now is not red. Arsenal is not playing well. And I would tell the rest of English football to enjoy these days that Arsenal is not playing well, because sooner or later the ship will get righted. Arsenal will get back to doing what we do best, and that is subjugating our opponents over the course of a 90-minute match. So just a matter of time. Give Arteta time. We'll figure it out. You know, there's a January transfer window for a reason. Got to bring in some players. Right now, Europa League is permitting us the opportunity to play the youngsters. Balogun came on, had a brilliant goal. 2 matches, 2 goals. You know, our academy will continue to produce talent.
For recruiting, to focus on Salve soccer, everybody's kind of had to turn to the virtual thing, and it's recruiting over Zoom. It's breaking down film. For you, what is your process for reviewing film? And if anybody's looking to send you film, what are kind of the do's and don'ts? What are things that kids should be doing if they're looking to send film to Craig O'Rourke II?
I'm trying to think of how to answer this. Yeah, at this point, it's all about film, because live evals have fallen away due to weather. I was out before COVID hit, December, January, February, March, evaluating talent, and we were able to more or less start to formulate our 2021 recruiting list. That was then augmented over the course of the past year by film review. And then we did conduct 2 ID clinics, one in August and another in November. And I was out the last 2-3 weekends at recruiting showcases before this recent surge hit due to the Thanksgiving holiday. So we have a very, I think, extensive top 10 list at this point that we're actively pursuing. We've already started to get our commits coming in for 2021. And in the next 6 to 7 weeks, we'll pretty much segue out of 2021 recruiting and get going on our 2022 recruiting and really start hitting those films hard. Anyone who wants to send us film, whether it be for the 2021, 2022, or 2023 class, I would say don't over-splice and over-edit your film. So much of the game of soccer happens off the ball, and we want to see that. Always give us a good solid 5 to 10 second lead up before ball's on foot, and let us see how the play develops. First and foremost, even before you send us the film, make sure you include all necessary information with a jersey number, position being played, time indexes of specific highlights, team's tactical formation, specific instructions that you were given and what your assignment was in your team's tactical formation. and then make sure that the film shows us everything we want to see: technical ability, tactical awareness, work rate, decision-making, overall soccer IQ, commitment to your team's attacking shape, commitment to your team's defensive shape, off-the-ball movement, both in possession as well as in defensive schemes, and just give us an overall macro perspective of you as a soccer player. I've watched a lot of very good film, and I've watched a lot of not so good film over the last 14 years. And I'll be honest, the highlights you choose, or the way that you put your film together in the sport of soccer, says a great deal about you as a player. If you are only showing me what you do in 5 to 10 second segments of what you do on the ball, and that pretty much tells me what kind of player you are, in the fact that you think only stuff happening on the ball is important. One of our top recruits, who actually just sent in a commitment to us for our 2021 class, number 3 overall attacking center mid or box to box. His film caught our attention right in the first 30 seconds. He opened with a brilliant free kick that showed us something special that not everyone is capable of doing. That grabbed the attention. And then he showed us great off-the-ball work, execution of pass in the 10, the 20, the 30, even the 40-yard. And then not only did he execute the pass, execute it properly, put it into the space that it needed to go to, he then moved to support his pass. So right there, he's got technical execution, tactical awareness, off the ball, and work rate, all shown in the span of 2 10-second clips after he's already grabbed our attention, with the technical execution to hit a very good free kick into the upper 90s. So, and by conducting himself in that way and showing the clips in that segment and that flow, it shows the degree of soccer IQ that he understands the game and the way the game is played and the way the game is going to be perceived. And we jumped all over him early. The second we had that film, we got right to work on making sure that he knew that we thought he was special. At these recruiting showcases that I was at the last couple of weekends, I was able to find out that several other coaches thought he was special. As we talked to 4 or 5 other programs that were also actively recruiting him. And I complimented 2 of them as they're in our conference. And I said, hey, leave the damn Salve recruits alone. But no, he has committed to us, so we've landed him. We're hoping to get our 4th commitment in the coming days, get ourselves up to 4. 4 of the true top 10, 3, 5, 7. And we're hoping to land number 2 center back from Connecticut. And then it's just about pursuing all the others. But film is of the utmost importance right now, and keeps coming in. I get film in every day, and a lot of kids are having coaches call. I had a conversation this morning with the Monmouth University coach in New Jersey. And he was calling me about not only a 2021, but a 2022 as well. So it's never too early. I'll be honest. If you're a capable high school junior right now, get your film together and get it out to your top tier schools, because coaches who are in the know and who are trying to get their program moving along and competing at the national stage, we're never going to miss a beat. And we're going to not just recruit the current class, but we're looking 1 to 2 classes ahead.
Craig, we're going to be having a TED Talk on mental health coming up here after your segment for the audience to watch. How much has the discussion around mental health been increased this season, and maybe specifically with your team? How have you addressed those issues?
I think the talk about mental health is an ongoing topic with my team, whether it be a pandemic year or just a normal year. My team has definitely had some of their greatest moments in the off season, whether there was a pandemic going on or not. I think mental health is something that has come into the limelight of the national stage in recent years, not just with student athletes, but with elementary, middle school, and high school students, as well as college students. The stress that society places on, even more so that individuals place on themselves, wears greatly on one's mental faculties. And in this day and age, with how pervasive society is, largely because of social media and the internet, I think young people have much more stressors on them than I did, or even you did, Andrew, when we were growing up. Our guys, we talked about through our fall season and in meeting with the captains early on as a coaching staff, we said that our greatest goal during the fall wasn't even technical or tactical, or wasn't even team building really. It was just keeping everybody together. Our number one goal was to keep the core group, the entire roster, together for as long as possible, because we were worried about how elements of COVID were going to prevent that. And again, like I started with men's soccer players, members of my program, that will find interesting in new ways, because we had guys test positive, but that wasn't the reason that we were segregated from each other. We had a young man, a freshman, highly talented, who just had a problem keeping his mask on that led to no fewer than 9 separate mask violations that eventually led to the dean's office pulling his housing contract, and then he was no longer allowed to be on campus. And if you're not living on campus, then you're not training with us in the fall. So we actually lost him for the last week of training, and he is someone who is probably going to factor into first 11 moving forward. So I mean, ultimately the goal was keep everybody together as long as possible. But like I said, ultimately we found ways within our own roster to prevent that. Yeah, mental health, I think, is something we have to pay attention to. I think as administrators and head coaches within the Department of Athletics, we have to stay diligent and focused on those that we can affect and monitor our roster closely. I meet with each of my guys weekly for what we call WARMs, weekly academic review meetings, but as much as it's about the academics, it's just about more or less checking in with them to make sure everything is staying on the straight and narrow. And even when we can't be together in the past few weeks since Thanksgiving, I had to conduct all of those virtually online via Zoom and FaceTime. It still allows us the chance to make sure that they are doing well, and understand that while COVID is the prevailing thought across the country right now, it is temporary, with the FDA meeting today, hopefully giving the Pfizer vaccine emergency approval, and then next week the Moderna vaccine. Hopefully, once we get the number of vaccines in place and can start vaccinating a large-scale portion of the population, we'll start moving towards a world that doesn't have COVID, or at least COVID-19. I saw a film script about COVID-23.
No, we don't got to go there. Let's not.
The age
let's
of the
not
Super
even.
Bug is upon us. You never know.
Let's not even use the imaginations there. Well, Craig, always love catching up with you. We're going to get to that TED Talk. So for anybody tuning in, we'll have a TED Talk, athletes and mental health, coming up right now. But Craig, thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll catch up with you again more next week.
See ya, Pez. Stay safe.
All right, thank you. You as well. That's Craig O'Rourke II, the head coach of our men's soccer team. So as I promised, we're going to go now. We're going to show you, this is athletes and mental health, the hidden opponent. Victoria Garrick, a USC athlete, is the presenting speaker for this TED Talk. Hope you enjoy it, and hope you'll tune in with us again tomorrow at 3 p.m. to wrap up this week of Seahawk Talk. So enjoy the TED Talk, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
You have to be at a team lift at 6 a.m., but you're accidentally 1 minute late because you slept through your alarm. Your heart's pounding from sprinting to the gym, but nobody cares that it's because you were up until 2 a.m. studying for an exam that you still don't feel prepared for. You can feel the tension between you and your teammates who now have to run sprints tomorrow at 6 a.m. because you were 1 minute late. You start the lift, and your mind's just not in the right place, but it doesn't matter. You have to lift. And as soon as it's over, you scarf down breakfast on your way to 8 a.m. class, and you get there, and your hair's still wet because you didn't have time to dry it. The professor looks at you and says, "Where's the homework assignment?" But you forgot it. How could you forget it? You were supposed to be on top of everything, so you sit there and you worry about what else you might have forgot. And at noon, you get a 30-minute break, but it's not really a break because you use it to quickly make up an assignment you missed for last week's game. And soon, it's 12:10, and to you, 40 minutes does not feel like enough time to get on the court and be ready, even though it actually is. So you head over, and at 1, practice is starting. And you have to forget everything that happened in your day, because at practice, you have to perform. You can't not perform. There's someone better than you, someone competing with you, and someone in high school who just committed to be you. So forget the 0 on your assignment. Forget the test you're not prepared for. Forget the friends you haven't seen in weeks. Forget the argument you've been in with your parent. Play well, pass well, perform. And when it's finally over, you find yourself staring in the locker room mirror, trying not to cry. And you ask yourself, is this how I'm supposed to feel? My name is Victoria Garrick, and I play volleyball here at USC. I've been playing sports my whole life, but never quite like this. Now, in high school, I didn't understand mental illness. And usually when people say mental illness, people tense up because talking about it is uncomfortable. You might think, oh, I've heard this before, or this doesn't affect me. Those are common thoughts to have, I know, because I used to think the same things. I thought, depression means you have serious family issues, or, you're born with anxiety. I just didn't get it because it's hard to understand something you can't see or touch. So when I got to college and began my career as a Division I athlete, I never thought I would struggle with these issues. Now, I can't be the only athlete here. We definitely probably have some soul cyclers, some neighborhood joggers. So if you've ever, had an injury, torn a ligament, sprained an ankle, I just want you to raise your hand. All right, awesome. That's like most of the room. It's pretty common. Now I want you to raise your hand if you've ever had depression or anxiety. You can put your hands down. Did you feel almost that tension or like that awkwardness we just created together? Did you maybe judge someone who raised their hand, or were you afraid to raise your own hand because of what people might think? 1 in 4 people suffer from a mental health issue, which is 25% of this room right now. What we just experienced together was a room full of people stigmatizing mental health. Dr. Jeffrey Lieberman defines stigma as dishonor or disgrace. He says it's like the scarlet A that Hester Prynne is forced to wear, or the mark on Cain in the Bible. It's this label that outcasts you from everyone else. We stigmatize mental health in this same way, and that's a societal issue that needs to change. And while anyone can experience a mental health issue, today I'm going to talk about mental health, specifically in athletes, because I have faced anxiety and depression through my experiences as an athlete. So let me tell you a little bit about me. When I first got to the USC volleyball team, I was overjoyed. Let me preface this by saying I was not a top recruit, okay? I was not called by tons of Division I schools, but USC was my dream scenario, and I wanted it so bad. And I knew I was good enough despite what anyone else told me. So I emailed these coaches every day. I called them every week. I went in for extra reps in high school. I sent them videos. I called again until they were like, okay, you can walk on. Just stop contacting us. So eventually I got my spot. But still, these USC coaches did not think I would play 1 point. But I had this fire, this zest for competition, and I didn't care that I didn't have the accolades that the other girls did. So I kept working hard. Against all odds, my freshman season, I started and played in every single Pac-12 match, and we won the championship. That's me on the left right there. And what happened was there was this girl who wasn't supposed to do anything, who now has a role on what at the time was the #1 team in the nation. Mentally, I started on this high, right, because I was living my dream. But all of a sudden, I began to feel differently. I became anxious, more anxious than I'd ever felt before. I had 5 alarms to make sure I was never late, but I never even used the 5 alarms because I woke up at 7:15 anyways due to my anxiety over being late. And I worried about my athletic performance constantly. On game days, I worried, what if I don't play well tonight? What if the coaches bench me? What if my passing sucks? What if I didn't study to scout enough? There were times I would feel this knot in my stomach and my skin start to crawl and my hands start to shake and eyes well with tears because I was so afraid to play and make a mistake. Because at an elite level, mistakes are costly. And on top of it, I had school and exams and family and a social life, and I couldn't handle everything coming at me so fast and just piling up at one time. I want to take a second, though, to show you guys how this happened to me because, to be ironic, it is easier to understand something when you can see it. So we're going to look at a typical week in my life. I'm going to disclaimer, this wasn't intended to be funny, but as I wrote my talk, I realized how much of a joke my schedule is, so I had some fun with it. So if you like to make light of a tragic situation like me, you're going to enjoy this. If not, bear with me. I have 16 units of class. Let's add a nice fat 5-hour practice block. Then I have required tutoring. Maybe time to eat because I'm a human who does that sometimes. Also, I need office hours, probably with a professor who thinks his class is the only thing I have to do in my life. Then I have an exam, which I probably only know 20% of, so I'm gonna block out time to study and really master that 20%, on top of all my other homework. And oops, maybe I have 6 a.m. running because my teammate's going through the same stuff I am and she was late one day. But don't forget, games on Friday and Sunday out of state. So now I'm missing these days of class for travel. Secretly, I'm kind of excited I'm missing class, but the logical part of me is like, when am I going to find the time to make up that work? Because pregame warm-up starts not 1, not 2, not 3, but a whopping 4 hours before the game. So if you thought I'd have time to make it up, I actually don't. And then it all restarts when I hop off my plane bright and early to do it all again. And in the little time I have left, I like to cry in misery. I wish I was kidding. But if you look at the schedule in all seriousness, you can see how this can overpower anyone. It could overpower one of you. All of a sudden, I was thinking about what I have to do next, what I can't be late for, what I can't miss, what could go wrong. And it just kind of drove me off the wall. And because I didn't think I could have any of these illnesses because I was an athlete, I battled depression for half a year without even knowing I was. When I first became really unhappy, it was in August, and I didn't know how to describe it. Every morning I woke up, I immediately despised the day. I didn't have the energy. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to see anyone or do anything. At practice, I just went through the motions. I woke up, I went to the practice block for 5 hours, and I went to sleep. And I did that again and again and again. I was just depleted, completely and utterly drained. And do you know how much energy it takes day in and day out to not even succeed, but just get by as a student athlete? It's exhausting. And I told myself, you can't feel this way, Victoria. You have nothing to feel sad about. You're starting, you have a great family, you have good friends. And I was confused because I was known to always be the most energetic, the most bubbly and talkative, and always happy. So I said, put on this face and just fake it. But after a while, I couldn't fake it. I began to see a psychologist once a week, and that was weird. Being honest, the first time I walked into the waiting room, I was like, oh my God, I'm one of those people now. Like, I have a therapist. You imagine, like, there goes that voice stigmatizing mental health, like, therapies for weirdos. I thought I'd, like, walk in and there'd be, like, this big yellow couch and, like, this box of tissues, and they'd say, like, tell me your darkest secrets. But, like, it's not like that. It was actually very helpful. So after a while of seeing her, she suggested I try medicine, antidepressants. And I was immediately like, what? It's like when you've been dating someone for a while and they say, I want you to meet my parents. And you're like, this is too serious now. So naturally, I refused the meds. But of course, my depression worsened. I realized it wasn't something I could just eat a tub of ice cream over, cry, and be fine the next day. The neurochemicals in my brain were literally not producing the way they once were, and my serotonin levels were no longer high enough to keep my mood where it once was. What I used to not be able to describe, I could formulate into words. I had this dark cloud over my head, and it followed me everywhere. It was there when I woke up. It was there when I went to sleep. It was there in practice every day, passing balls. And do you know how hard that is when you have to be good at your craft every single day, and all you want to do is lay into a ball and just cry? I remember times during water breaks, I would run to the bathroom and just sob because for 5 seconds, I wanted my day to stop. I never got to a point of self-harm, fortunately, and I never put myself in actual danger, but I can remember a few times that I was biking and I thought, if this car accidentally hit me, that would stop my week. That would give me the break I so badly need. I want to show you some pictures that I posted during this time in my life. What do we think of these? Just look at them. Here I am with my friends at the party. There we are looking cute and Christmassy. Over to the right, we're celebrating. I look happy, right? Because no one posts what they don't want you to see. This photo on the left, I was at that party for probably 20 minutes before I was so overwhelmed with all the people around me that I snuck out the back and went home alone. And when my friend in the picture texted me and said, "Hey, where you go?" I lied, said I ran into someone. The photo in the middle, we took like 50 pictures that night to find one that I deemed pretty enough to post on my Instagram, completely staged. And the one on the right, I spent that night crying. I was trying so hard to portray this life that I so badly felt I needed to have. And this is a problem with so many people my age, not just because of depression, but because our culture has created this belief that we need to be achieving all the time in order to be happy, right? Look what internship she got. Look what trip he went on. It doesn't stop, this constant scrolling of people who look like they're doing so well, that you sit back and say to yourself, well, what am I doing? What do I look like? Why don't I look like her? It's this flawed notion that says you need to be achieving to be happy and be valued. If I'm on the USC volleyball team, I'll be valued. If I get this job, I'll be happy. At this point, you're probably thinking, why don't you quit? I'm not on scholarship. I could just quit. Why don't I just stop doing that? I don't quit because volleyball is who I am. It's not a hobby or something I do on the side. It's my life, like most athletes. And what that means is I have to learn how to manage my lifestyle because I have 2 more years left, and you better bet I want to win a championship. I have major depressive disorder, single episode with anxious features. I see my therapist now. I take medicine. I practice positive thinking. I try to be authentic on social media and to people. But the biggest thing that stood with me is I sat back and assessed it all, and I thought, why? Why did it take me so long to acknowledge and accept my illness? And I realized the culture that we live in as athletes does not make it easy for us to honor this. If you think about it, the culture of athletics preaches where there's a will, there's a way. The best don't rest. Unless you puke, faint, or die, keep going. Mental illness is associated with weakness. To appear weak is the last thing an athlete wants. And we're always hearing about the grind, right? It's about the grind. Even if you're not an athlete, I mean, you've heard about the grind. To me, it means when you just feel like you can't do something, but you do it. When your thighs are burning and you're sweating bullets, you run one more sprint. When it's the 5th set and you just feel like you can't do it anymore, but you go dig 10 more balls. Like, that's the grind. But being a part of this culture makes it so hard for athletes to differentiate between what is hard work and what is pushing yourself too far. What happens when this push through your workout becomes a push through a conversation, a push through a day, and all of a sudden, a push through your life? I know what the grind is. I've started on this team for 2 years competing with girls who were supposed to blow me out of the gym. And that's why it was so hard for me to honor what I was going through. I was in practice thinking, I don't want to be here today. I just want to go home and rest. And I said, Victoria, the girl to your left, she's here. She's working hard. She must want it more than you. You don't deserve to be here if you're not going to work hard. I told myself I was weak for wanting a break. And this is so true across all athletes because the stigma makes it so hard for us to come forward. Did you know that Serena Williams and Terry Bradshaw have had depression? Serena Williams, she's a legend, okay? She's been the world's #1 female tennis player 7 different times. And even someone like her can struggle with these issues. But that's just stuff people aren't realizing. Let's look at concussions, for example. In 1933, the NCAA's medical handbook said concussions shouldn't be regarded too lightly. In 1952, the New England Journal of Medicine said players who've suffered multiple concussions should stop playing football. Not until 70 years later, in 2009, did the NFL even acknowledge publicly that concussions can have long-lasting effects on players. So we're looking at something here where 20 years ago, nobody cared. Nobody cared about concussions. You'd think, yeah, banging your head together, probably not safe. No, players were told, tough it out if your head hurts. The way we're treating mental illness today is so similar to the way we treated concussions 20 years ago. Oh, this athlete's feeling depressed, sleep it off. Oh, that athlete's having an anxiety attack, tell them to calm down. We need to make a change societally to make people care this much about mental health. Because I'll tell you this, right now, a physical injury is treated more serious than a psychological injury, and that needs to change. I could easily get the day off for a physical injury, right? Because I'm limping. You can see my ankle swelling. But for an athlete to say, I've been feeling depressed this week, or I've had insomnia because of my anxiety, you're just looked down upon. And at this level, no one wants to miss practice. I mean, that sets me behind the competition, behind on my team. But when the trainer can see you're injured, they make you sit out because they can see your physical health is at stake. But when no one can see your mental health, it's just up to you to decide. And someone like me who hates not being there, my team will tell you this, I hate not being there when they're sprinting without me and I'm injured, it kills me. So for me to walk up to them and say, I have a completely uninjured body and you can't see it, but I'm not well and I need to rest today, is so hard to do. And with everything I've been through, I've only done that once. I'm here today for a greater population, a silent population of athletes who thinks they'll be viewed as lesser, doesn't have the courage to come forward, or doesn't know that they can be a strong, competitive, elite athlete and have a mental health issue. In 2015, the NCAA conducted a survey. They found that out of 2,100 athletes, 30% reported they were intractably overwhelmed. On depression and anxiety, they said they've seen a general increase. This is 2 years old. This should be recorded every season, if not every year, and they do not even give us numbers on depression and anxiety, and this is the most recent survey the NCAA has done. It infuriates me that something so serious is being so clearly disregarded. I did my own survey to show you guys that this is an epidemic. I surveyed 100 men and women from Division I schools like Stanford, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, you name it. And this is what I found. When asked if they'd ever experienced symptoms of depression or anxiety, 69% said yes. The statistic I gave you in the beginning was 25. When asked if they think the amount of time they need to spend on their sport is too much, more than half said yes, almost at 90%. And the next one honestly devastated me when the results came in and it kept me up for a few days. I asked them, have you ever felt you experienced anxiety, depression, or an eating disorder, but were too afraid to tell anyone? More than half. That means those athletes today are somewhere and no one knows that they're struggling. And about 80% agree with me that this topic is neglected throughout society. My university gives me free medicine and free therapy, and for that I am so grateful. But so many other athletes like me don't get that opportunity because this issue is underrated and they don't have the funds. Due to the extreme time demands and the pressure that we athletes feel, we need to just be very aware of how athletes are feeling across the country and consistently be evaluating them. And athletes need to be aware of their mental health so that they can learn how to manage this lifestyle. I love my team. They are special girls, and I love the sport of volleyball. That's why I can't let it go. But as I continue my next 2 years, I hope that I hear this conversation get louder. I hope mental health stops being stigmatized for all people. And I hope that one day, a person like me can get on this stage, ask a question about mental health, and no one will think twice about raising their hand. Thank you.